Good day, students. How are we all doing? So I'm welcoming you all to another class, and I hope we learned one or two things from the previous class. So as I said in our last physical class, that we are going to be considering tone of list, tone of list in respect to property rating and valuation. So tone of list is what we are going to be considering in this class. So, so by way of introduction, the last topic we discussed valuation list. We discussed valuation list, and I was explaining to us that valuation list is like a register. It's like a register that contains all the rateable properties in a local government area or in a municipal, basically just to show the assessed value of those properties. And I remember I was saying something like there are variations. Well, it's expected that we have fluctuation in the property value, which shows that it's not constant. Hence, need for a what? Need for a valuation list. And this could be as a result of the forces in the market, the demand and supply, inflation, urban growth and development, even some government policies. And I remember that I was telling us that the essence of that is for what is, for fairness, for uniformity of all properties in our valuation list. In our valuation list. So after this has been established, then this leads us to tone of list. Now that we have our valuation list, this leads us to what? To our tone of list. So we can say that tone of list basically is a what? Uh, well, we can say that this is a standard that ensures that what no property is unfairly valued. No property is unfairly valued or undervalued. When we are making comparison to similar properties around, you ensure that, okay, every properties that falls within this range should have the same, putting into consideration they're in the same location, they have the same finishes, so that our judgments will not be different, to ensure that we have what is called we have fairness, so that property A and B, they have the same thing in the same location. There should be the difference in the rates that they'll be paying to the local governments. There should be different. So basically, that is what tone of list does. That is what tone of list does. So this leads to our to check the meaning of tone of list. What is the meaning of tone of list? I said the other time that it is a standard in a way. So we can say that tone of list refers to the prevailing level or standard of value that is adopted across a valuation list for similar classes of properties within the same rating area and we can also liken this to we can say a benchmark, we can say yardstick, we can say measures that is used against properties in order to ensure what? Uniformity, consistency. Well, as a way of example, we can say that if two shops in the same market have similar size, and the use are the same thing, they should be valued at the same rental level. irrespective of, oh, probably shop A is collecting maybe 100K and shop B is collecting 120K, irrespective of their rental, the rent they are commanding. So far they have the same feature, and they are used for the same use, then they should fall within the range of what, within the range of value, within the range of the same value, within the range of the same value. So what shop A is paying as rate is the same thing shop B to be paying as what, as rate. So let's quickly look into the historical background of the concept of tone of list. So we can say that tone of list originated from English rating law, where the court emphasized that there should be need for a what, a uniform assessment. There should be need for uniform assessment. Then another thing we can look at in terms of the historical background is the Popular Assessment Committees versus Roberts of 1922, where the court held that valuation must reflect a common tone or general level of what, of rental value in an area. So we can liken this into probably shades of color. Shades of color. We can say, okay, shades of green. Fine, we have dark green, we have light green. Everyone that falls in the darker shade of green should have this value. Everyone that falls into the darker shade of white should have this value. So that we can say that tone of list emanated from this historical background. And also in Nigeria, this principle was imported into Nigerian law through the colonial status under the state law governing the property rating. For example, our tenement rate law, land use charge law. They give provision for fairness. They give provision for tone of what, of valuation. So after this might have been said, we need to look into objective of tone of list. We can say objective, we can say characteristics, we can say principles. So anywhere you see objectives, anywhere you see principles, anywhere you see characteristics, just know that, okay, they are asking the same thing. So the first one we'll be considering today is the uniformity and fairness. This is just to ensure that all rate payers they are treated equally. They are treated equally for what? For similar properties. And why are we doing this? We are doing this in order to prevent what? Arbitrary or any discriminatory assessment, to avoid disputes in a way, Then the second one is the stability of valuation system. Well, I personally, I think with a tone of list in check, it provides a reference point. It provides a reference point just to avoid fluctuation or inconsistency. So when you have a scale that you use, like, okay, within this range, this is what we have. Within that range, this is what we have. Before you know it, it brings about consistency in whatever you are doing. Okay, you have a check to fall back, and you have a benchmark you are working with. You have measures in place to ensure that, okay, whatever you are doing is what you are consistent in it. So you are consistent in it. So a tone of list is what helps in creating what stability in what evaluation system. Then another thing is the legal defensibility. So court often uphold valuation lists if they follow an established tone of list. So there wouldn't be any need for dragging. In fact, it will make litigation or court cases very smooth. So far you have what to work with. No one can come and bamboozle you. No one can come and bring what is not. So far you have what you're operating with. It will make even the judgment to be seamless. It's just like, okay, the cases are here. Sorry, can I have the tone of this for this area? Let me check if it is in line with what this person was said. So it will make judgment to be what to be fair, to be fair. Then the fourth objective talks about the administrative efficiency. So this talks about valuers can quickly access new property by referring to probably the existing tone of list. It makes work more easier, more efficient, less stressful. Less stressful. Before you know it, oh, I think I have a property has been assessed based on these parameters. Just check. After you check, oh, what do we have? What do you have? Then you come about with your what? With your rateable value. With your rateable value. Then the last objective talks about the revenue predictability. Revenue predictability. So with tone of list, you can help the local government to project income based on what standardized value. Income based on what standardized value. So with this, that we have established what the qualities of a tone of list. Now let's look into the establishing the tone of list. How do we even start to generate this tone of list? How do we tend to build it up? How do we tend to open it up for an area, for an establishment, for any local government, as the case may be? So how does a valuer establish what tone of list? The first one is what? Collection of rental evidence. Collection of rental evidence. I was saying it in the valuation list that you can't just work on isolation. Everything that you needed to work with, you need what? You need to gather data. You need to gather data on the what? On the actual rent paid. On the actual rent paid for similar properties in that locality, in that area. For example, the shops, the offices, the houses, as the case may be. You need to what? Do your own thorough market survey. Do your own thorough what? Market survey. Then after that might have been done, the next thing for you to do was to classify those properties. To classify those properties, it is expected that you have to group them in categories. For example, we have type of landed properties. Does this fall into residential? Does this fall into commercial? Does this fall into industrial? In fact, we can even go as far as zoning it. Oh, zone A, zone B, zone C. I know in town planning, we have something called concentric cycle. Before you know it, oh, we have the CBD area, property that falls within the CBD, properties that falls within the suburban. This is what should be used. So with this, it is the second stage of you establishing what's your tone of list. Your tone of list. Then the third one is for you to analyze your rental trend. So when you're analyzing your rental trend, you are trying to compare. You are trying to compare and make. You are trying to compare and analyze the rent that you might have gathered, in order for you to find an average prevailing level. An average prevailing level that okay, based on your findings, you realize that the highest rental person in this area for probably shop can be maybe 40,000 naira, and probably the lowest is maybe 20,000 naira. So you will now see to find the average. Fine, all of them cannot be paying the same rent, even though they are in the same locality. But now your market survey has established that you have the higher rent for probably 40,000, the lower rent of 20,000. So when you're making your analysis, your own is to form a judgment of, okay, let's come within an area, like, okay, an average shop should be paying 30,000. Should be paying 30,000. If they are on floor, you can do it. You can even do it floor by floor. And as I said earlier, you can even zone it. You can do zone by zone. Zone, hey, this is what they are going to pay. So while you doing that, you are establishing what? Tone of list. You are establishing tone of list. Then the fourth one is you adopting what? Benchmark values. Adopting benchmark values. As I said earlier, when you are zoning and you are attaching rental value to them, it shows that, okay, you are benchmarking them. You are benchmarking them. For example, the one I cited earlier, the 20,000 naira per shop in a market, it should be the standard that is adopted. So everybody knows that in that area for this shop, oh, you are paying this amount. It's not that shop number one is paying 20,000, shop number two is paying 22,000, having the same size, putting in the same use. So the last thing to do after this might be done is to what? Is to apply it across all similar properties. So the tone is applied for, as I said earlier, for what? For uniformity to all properties in the same category with adjustments to size and location. So the only thing that can, give room for adjustment is, okay, when the location is different, when they are not in the same neighborhood, when the size of one is a little bit bigger than the other. Then in terms of quality, probably the finishes also can also affect this. So let's briefly look into some practical examples in Nigeria. For example, in Lagos, Balogun Market, their shops are always they have the same sizes. So they can just tell you that, oh, probably the one that is closer to the major road, they are paying this amount. The one followed by it, they are paying this amount. Probably the one facing the major road, they can say as written here, maybe 250K. So the line that follows will be paying maybe 220. The third line will be paying 200. Like that. Proximity to the major road definitely will command higher value. Then another one is the corner shops. Corner shops, most of the time they are always adjusted upward. Because of what they are going to benefit. For example, the one at the corner, you understand as, okay, probably you will have an access to two major road. So in a way, these are to be treated with preference. So, and the one that are not really, although they are cornered, but they are not really as upgraded as the first one, then in a way there should be reduction in whatever you are going to be giving to them. So then another one in terms of the residential flat, we can say, I am trying to cite an example here for example, a residential estate in Abuja. So if a 3-bedroom flat generally rents between let's say 2.5 million to 3 million annually. The tone may be fixed to 2.7. I said this earlier. They are going to be finding what? You are going to be finding the average. You are going to be finding the average, which shows that all similar flats in the estates, we then have a value around which tone? Around the tone of what? 2.7 million. So this is a practical example in Nigeria. So let's look at the importance of tone of list. What are the importance of tone of list? I know I've mentioned a little bit of it in my explanation, that it ensures what? Consistency and fairness. It ensures what? Consistency and fairness. That is basically why we are having a tone of list, so that everyone that falls into this category, this is the amount you are paying. To ensure fairness. Nobody is being cheated. And also, I said again that it helps in dispute resolution. Because probably there are discrepancies in anything that was served to them. The only thing that can bring solution to it is to get a tone of list. For that particular area, to ensure that, okay, with that you can use it to what? You can use it to solve whatever dispute that arises, and also it can also be used to judge our what? Our revaluation. It can also be used to what? To judge